Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
Why are we laughing?
I'm laughing because I was laughing about Jenna's dancing while the music was playing.
Oh. I'm Linda.
That was awesome.
I'm Charles.
I'm Jenna.
Yep. It's not fair that you and Linda get to watch us dance, but
I know
we can't see each other.
I know. That's we should put in a demand to StreamYard to say, hey, everybody wants to see everybody. Let's,
They'll
say, it's like when you guys
spend the money, make them all administrators.
Yeah. I mean, in every green room, they have like a TV so that the people coming on to the show can see what's going on while the show is going on. You guys should be able to see what's happening while the credits are running.
Agreed. If only.
Right.
Not the viewers, though. No. You guys don't get to see that. This is us. This is for us.
Right.
I'm flattered that Bill wants to bless the rest of you with my antics.
I mean, I want to see your antics, too.
Well, and in all fairness, usually Linda and I are dancing together during that thing, but we're the only ones that can see each other. So, we're always trying to outdo each other usually.
Kinda.
I've been missing out this whole time.
Yeah, see, Charles, you're not dancing enough.
I didn't know we were dancing.
I was briefly administrator, and I got to see it, too, and it was so nice.
Yeah. See, Charles, now that you know, I'm going to expect some over-the-top dancing on our next show.
Yeah.
All right.
You can also do it on the exit.
Yeah, right. Exit dance as well. Well, I hope everybody out there watching has their air pumps handy and is rapidly inflating their rafts for the raft of discussion we're going to have today on just all sorts of topics.
Hey, Bill, what was that motion again for filling up?
Moving right along. So we've got kind of a potpourri of things to chat about today, right? And I don't know where we should start. Where do we want to start? Let's start.
I'd say Last of Us.
Yeah, let's start with The Last of Us, and then we can kind of fill in the cracks and crevices with other discussion as we move along.
Do we have to phrase it like that?
I think so.
Are we not praising people?
Right. Right. Okay, so has everyone on the show today seen the last episode of The Last of Us?
I have not, but I know how it ends.
Oh, all right. Charles?
Oh, yeah, at least on the TV.
Okay.
I never played the game.
Okay, right. And
Like,
Jen,
I've known what was coming since episode 1, so I haven't.
Yeah, but like I told you, Seth, they included a scene that wasn't in the game, so.
I've heard, but you're not gonna spoil stuff for me. Like the whole series was spoiled already, so.
all right. Well, we should probably let the audience know if you haven't seen The Last of Us already, go out there and watch it, and come back.
This is your spoiler warning.
There it is.
Spoiler alert.
Red alert. Okay, so
plays.
Jenna, I'm going to pick on you. Why don't you kind of give us an overview of what happened and how the show ended up?
I love how you do that when I haven't seen it in 2 weeks. So.
Well, but in all fairness, neither have Linda and I, and you have a younger brain than we do, so it's probably fresher in yours than ours.
Oh boy!
Unfortunately, she has a Jenna brain in her, so
that was a reach, Bill.
Right.
All right. So just before our audience throws the friggin' phone, or whatever they're listening to us on, so we open up with a woman who is fleeing, obviously the infected, and we get to a house. There's a big battle she gets with the infected that have followed her to this house in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, she's pregnant, and she ends up having this kid after her mother was bit, like within minutes. Like, I felt so sorry for this woman having to literally like push off a infected, and in the doing so, just literally pushes her child out. You don't see it in graphic detail, but as someone who's recently had a child in the last year, it was rough.
You could have sympathized with that whole scene. I'm taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she cuts the umbilical cord immediately, hoping that her child's not been bit. And you get this beautiful kind of montage of her just in awe of this child that she's just had. And you know that there's a sadness that she knows she's not going to see it beyond that. And then Marlene, who we met in the earlier season, who was the leader of the Fireflies, turns out is her best friend, fulfills this promise of taking care of this child and shoots her best friend. Which to me kind of made Marlene out to be an asshole, because she promised her best friend that she would take care of this baby, but then puts it in the adoption with Fedra. That's,
Right.
So now we have this, we get this thing that because her mom had been bit just before she cut the umbilical cord for Ellie, that's how she's got her immunity. And then later, because her and Joel end up in the city, they end up in Salt Lake City, where the hospital is, they get jumped by a bunch of other Firefly people. But, Marlene, when they wake up, she tells them, Joel, hey, we got you. Sorry, we didn't realize it was you. Thanks for getting her here. She's prepared for, getting the cordyceps out, because apparently the cordyceps are already in her brain. And they tell other cordyceps that enter her that she's already infected, so she doesn't actually turn. So, hey, good news. We think we can come up with a cure. Bad news is we're going to have to kill Ellie. We haven't told her. She's just going to go to sleep, okay? We'll give you your payment, Joel. Move on. Joel's like,
what?
no, that's not how this is going to go. He goes Terminator, like first Terminator, going through the police station Terminator. Wrecks everybody. Ends up into her OR, shoots the doctor, takes Ellie because she's under out, and as she wakes up in the back of the vehicle, and he's like, "Don't worry, Ellie. So apparently you're not that unique. They've already tried this. There's no cure from you already having these cordyceps. Oh, and by the way, there was a bunch of raiders that attacked, and I barely got you out alive." And she's like, "You promised me that's how it happened?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay." Obviously, want to believe him, not really sure she does. Right. And that's how this.
I kind of got the impression that she's like, she didn't believe him at all, and she just wanted to see if he would continue lying to her about it, which he did.
I think like she doesn't want to forget that he took away her only purpose.
Right.
That she would actually that all of the pain and the death that they've seen and gone through would be worth something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is where Joel's own personal trauma comes out, though. It's like he can't sit and watch that happen again. So what? I kind of appreciate this sort of like ending to this part of the story, just because it's very true to people and not like just like, oh, and then they saved the world and everyone was happy and normal.
Well, yeah. But both forms of heroism are murky now. Yeah, I like that.
Well,
but she kind of wanted to. She was, I think, probably okay with being off if you would ask her.
Yeah, and being sacrificed.
Yes, yeah. And which is murky, and then him damning the rest of us.
Well, so that brings up a question then in this case. So I think, Joel obviously is acting out of a sense of love. He doesn't want her killed, and he certainly, as I think any of us wouldn't want anybody killed without their knowledge and consent for this service.
Well, and I don't think you should underestimate purpose. She gave him purpose.
Right, true, right.
Well, not only purpose, but consider everything that Joel lost. Like
Yeah.
from the beginning of the show to the point where he gets Ellie there. Like we see him lose his daughter, a couple of his friends in episode 3.
Right.
Whatever. Oh God, I'm so bad with names. The woman who was with them at the beginning, who made it
his girlfriend.
Yeah. Like he's lost a lot, and you can easily imagine someone who's just like can't do it again.
So here's the question then, based on this episode that I have for you guys is, do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or in this case, the one, Ellie? Do the needs of the humanity in general outweigh her needs or her right to survive?
I mean, logically, yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's the caveat though of there's no proof if she gives her life this is even going to work.
Well,
and that's what Aaron said. He said there's no proof that they're going to get this right or that they're even correct. They're just going to outright kill her, lose the source, and then it won't work. And then what?
No, we might develop immunity anyway. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Although I would say Captain Kirk would have saved her.
Captain Kirk would have saved her. Spock would not have.
Right.
Which is what I was saying, basically. That's where one of the places where the line Bill's quoting is from Star Trek 2.
Right.
And then here's the real dark shit that you have to go to. One, because like Aaron brought up, is that doctor doing it? Is he even fully qualified? Because I guess there's a whole medical Reddit, and they got into this huge debate, like, what were his qualifications? They just happen to have a pediatric neurosurgeon who can do all this, or is it someone who's just doing guesswork?
Right.
And then two,
the best of what's left.
Yeah, the best of what's left. Because how are they even training doctors right now?
Right.
To do anything like they did before. So now that Marlene was able to put 2 and 2 together, how Ellie got her immunity, was Marlene, if they lose Ellie and it doesn't work, just going to let that go? Or was she going to start taking pregnant women at the cusp of having babies and start biting, like getting them bit so they have multiple sources of this immunity?
That is a good idea.
Like,
wait, what?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to raise a group of naturally immune children.
Also, I don't think it would be too far outside the realm of possibility to ask for volunteers for that, because that's hey, you're gonna die. It's gonna be a painless death, but your kid's gonna be this immune. Is your best chance to have your kid be immune.
Right.
Yeah. True.
But then who are you trusting them with? Are they going to be raised as humans, or are they going to be raised as guinea pigs? Is there going to be any humanity in how they are raised?
Well, and here's the other question, because does Marlene even know that Ellie was infected in utero? Because the mother told her that she gave birth to her before she was bit.
I think Marlene put 2 and 2 together afterward, where it's like the cordyceps are already in here. She's like, she probably lied to me.
Yeah, because I wonder how long it took, because we see Ellie's arms been, sort of distorted from the cordyceps infection. Mm-hmm. I wonder how long it would have taken that to show up in the baby. Because if Marlene's caring for the baby, she would have seen that infection starting to show up on the arm.
That's where Ellie was bit.
Oh,
he knew that she was immune.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Thanks, Seth. Yep.
Yeah, it would have shown up on the belly button, maybe with a rash.
Yeah. No, you're right. So she didn't have any outward signs. She was bit in that mall with her best friend.
Yeah.
And that's when her arm got infected, but the infection didn't spread because she already had that immunity in her brain.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I got confused there for a minute. So yeah.
Nope, you're good.
Yep. So
I actually thought, I remember thinking it'd be pretty unnerving trying to keep the next few hours keeping the baby alive.
Oh
Just
yeah.
waiting for it to turn.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you'd almost think at that point you don't know how far away your friends are if they're coming to help and save the child, and you could turn at any minute. So how long before you take your own life? And then you're in the middle of this deserted house in the what looks to be like winter, right? Or at least certainly very cold area, wintry. And how's that child going to survive very long without the warmth of its mother? So,
And that's what wrecks me, because she's there for hours.
yeah,
The baby is hungry. She can't feed the baby. She doesn't
Right.
know if her friends are going to be able to find even food for the baby in their journey to Boston. Like, it's a miracle the baby made it to Boston, because what the hell were they feeding it?
right.
Yeah, there is so many things that element in that scene that left me wrecked the next morning. I was just like, because you get it. Like, I mean, how do you trust your friend to take care of it? And like, honestly, that's where, again, I said Marlene really was an asshole, but then
Yeah.
again, she's probably putting the needs of the rebel ahead of the few, and she just takes her kid and gives it to Fedra when they all hated Fedra.
Right. Which is weird.
And would have wanted that baby to go to Fedra? No.
Now you think you would have the Fireflies would have their own, settlement or something where they would be able to raise their own kids.
I mean, resources are limited.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, this is a show that doesn't really have like good people. Like everyone's just people. Like no one's so one note that like even the good guys are just a little bit not as good as they're not as good as you want them to be to be called good guys.
Yeah.
But that's survival. Like, we're 20 years, and that's what's about this film. We're 20 years into a post-zombie apocalypse. Even though they're infected, they're not zombie. I get it. Don't hate me too much. Hard-nosed people in this. But like, the post-apocalyptic, like, even Joel admitted that he killed innocent people to survive at the beginning. So these are just all people who are willing to do anything to make it, and then the children who've grown up in the culture of you do whatever the hell it takes to survive.
Right. Right. Well, now, what do you think about the end sequence for the preacher teacher? Or the teacher
From the
preacher?
second last episode
Yeah.
8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not-
So
Not the cult leader who was really interested in Ellie.
right.
Yeah.
That was so
Right.
disgusting.
Right. Yeah, she really did a good job of turning the tables on him and taking him out.
Hacking him to bits.
Yeah.
I'll share with the class. Like
Yeah, so
talking about.
yeah,
You
so
haven't seen it today?
I haven't seen it. I just actually watched episode 3,
okay.
3 and 4 maybe. Because I was like, okay, I think I can handle this now. And I was like, oh, this is so nice, and I don't want them to die tragically.
Yeah, so in that episode,
There's a little bit of
Pedro
a fire.
Pascal's character, what's his name?
Joel.
Joel.
Yeah. Joel. So Joel has been stabbed with a dagger or something in the previous episode. So when this episode opens, he and Ellie have gotten to this abandoned neighborhood, found a house, and she's got him laid out kind of in the basement of the house, and she's trying to tend to his wound, but it's obviously getting infected. He's getting worse off by the minute, and he tells her to go on, leave him, get out, and
Go find his brother.
to go find his brother. But then she has a flashback to her and her friend in the mall and what happened there. And she's like, no, she's not going to leave him. So instead, she grabs a shotgun to go out to try to hunt some game so that they can have something to eat. Cause she figures, well, he's going to need some food if he's going to fight this infection. And so while she's out hunting, she does manage to shoot a deer, and but the deer gets shot and kind of runs off. So she has to track it. So she's following the blood and finally comes up to it. But not before a couple of other hunters have come across the dead deer laying there, and their plan is to steal it before the hunter who shot it gets there. So
bold plan, given that the hunter who shot it also already has a gun that's aimed in their general direction.
yeah, right. So of course, yeah, right about that time, Ellie shows up with her gun and says, you know, drop it, leave it, kind of a thing. And the guy that's leading, the lead guy of that party there, he's actually the head of their particular group of survivors. And he used to be a teacher, but after the apocalypse, and he survived when all around him died, he found God. And God obviously had a purpose for him, since he let him survive while everyone else died. And so he creates this sort of evangelical community. And with him, of course, is the pinnacle of power, and his word goes. And he's pretty much an asshole. But anyway, he tells Ellie, you know what, just give us half the deer. We'll trade you for it. We have, you know, lots of things. We have medicine. And she goes, medicine? Because she needs medicine for Joel. So she says, do you have antibiotics? Yeah. So he said, all right. So he sends the other guy to go get antibiotics. And then he and Ellie drag the deer to a nearby, you know, kind of a open building. It's kind of like a barn that's kind of falling apart. So a couple of the walls are missing. Anyway, they're sitting in there, and the other guy goes and gets the medicine, but then he comes back, kind of sneaks up and gets the drop on Ellie. And they're kind of holding guns at each other. And the preacher guy, he's got this thing for Ellie. So he tells his partner to drop the gun, and they'll work out something with Ellie. Well, so he drops the gun.
Well, wait, twist. The guy who stabbed Joel and Joel killed happened to be a member of their community.
Right.
And they knew from the other people who was a part of the raiding group that like attacked Joel and Ellie, because they made it back, that this dude, this crazy guy, and this girl killed their member of the community. So a lot of the people there want revenge.
Right. They want him dead. So
yeah.
Anyway, so they give Ellie the medicine. She lets them have the whole deer, and she goes running back to Joel and starts shooting him up with antibiotics. And, you know, that was an interesting scene to me, because she gets back with the penicillin, and she's got the needle, right?
Yeah.
She's drawn, and she doesn't know where to stick it in. And, you know, before I reveal what happened there, I mean, how many of us would know? Do you give it in the arm? Do you
heart?
stick it in where the wound is? Do you stick it in the heart?
You put in the vein? Is it something you put in the muscle?
Right, right. And so
I Google it.
She ended up, if Google doesn't work then, but so she ended up sticking it in his abdomen where the wound was, and
like right into the wound.
So. And it turns out that worked. And so I actually looked up online to see, and it said for penicillin, you actually give the shot into a major muscle group. And they said ideally into the buttocks, but there's a huge muscle group in the abdomen as well. And so that's why that worked. She shot it in there, and that's where his wound was. So that worked. And I imagine it would have been kind of weird for the movie, for the show, if she turned him around, pulled his pants down, stuck him in the ass with a needle, but
yeah,
and it was much more of the visceral factor when she sticks the needle into his already stab wound. That was much more grimacing, whereas the other would have been kind of like uncomfortably weird. So
quick aside, when you said Joel gets stabbed with a knife, I was just like, as a student of genre fiction, I was waiting for you to actually finish that sentence with a knife that was poisoned with the blood of a dragon or something. Because that's how these things always work.
It wasn't a proper knife. It was
like a shiv.
Awful. It was a chunk of wood that had a base like this. It was only about this long. And went to a point. Like, it was something like they shoved it in twist. It was ragged.
Yeah, my point though is that we're not like, just like in our like in our movies and shows that we watch, just getting stabbed usually isn't enough to slow a hero down.
Right.
Like, we kind of forget that being stabbed is a bad thing.
Yeah.
The shows and the movies are always like, oh no, it was poisoned with wraith blood. You need a special cure that you can only find by gathering these leaves that are 50 miles away.
Yeah.
If you don't do it in the next 7 days, he will pass into the wraith world.
Right. Well, and I think what's different here too is that in like a lot of those movies you're referencing, Seth, oftentimes they're stabbed with these clean blades, you know, right? And this was obviously just, you know, a piece of filthy detritus that they found somewhere that they're using as a weapon.
Well, and he hasn't had his tetanus shot in 20 years either.
Right. And obviously there's penicillin's pretty hard to come by. It's not like you can go to your corner pharmacy and get some, or have a, you know, doctor prescribe it for you. So, but anyway, she injects him with it, and through the course of several hours, you know, he starts getting better. But of course, the preacher teacher has got all of his acolytes now with him in this big hunting group, and they're going to track down Ellie and this guy, and they figure out that they're in this development there, so they're kind of going house to house. And so Ellie decides she's going to lead them away, and they have her and Joel have a horse, so she hops on the horse, gets their attention, and you know, she makes a bad mistake here in that, you know, she sees them coming down this way, so she kind of goes past them and then starts running parallel this way around them. So all I have to do is all these guys run this way, and one guy kind of in the back, he runs over there and gets a line with his rifle and shoots the horse as she goes running by, and so she goes spilling off, and so they capture her. They don't know where Joel is exactly, and she kind of moves some stuff around in the house to block the entrance to the basement, so they wouldn't find him right away. But they end up hauling her off and continuing the search for Joel. Well, the penicillin by this time has had enough of an effect that he's coming around, and just in time to hear somebody walking through the house on the first floor up above him. And as the guy comes downstairs, Joel's hidden, and surprises the guy and kills him, chokes him out. And that's where we see Joel finally coming back, and he realizes Ellie's gone, and there's a bunch of these assholes in the town looking for him. And so he pretty much takes them out one by one. And then
ruthless.
Yeah, I think he finds where they got the horse, and because they took the horse back to the compound to use for
this community is starving. Like, they're trying to find food, and start to insinuate that they're getting meat in unsavory ways. And then you go into the barn where they're keeping the horse meat, and there's torsos of people in there where some people have died and now they're being eaten, or maybe they've pulled off stragglers.
And we kind of got a bit of a foreshadowing of that in the very beginning of the episode, because when you get introduced to this community, one of the guys that died, that Joel killed, they're having kind of a service for him, and the daughter wants to have him buried right away. Specifically says, can we bury him now? And of course, the preacher teacher, who knows that they're actually using human bodies for food, he says, we'll have to wait till the spring. The ground's too frozen to bury him now. And so we're like, yeah. So that kind of stuff. So anyway, what's that?
She's going to want a receipt on that.
That's right.
Here, have another bite of your dad. I mean,
like, it's going to get around to spring, and she's going to be like, so.
And then all you say is, hey, we had to put him in a box. You don't want to see him now, sweetie. He's decomposed. It's tragic.
It's scary the way Jenna supports this right away.
That definitely always works, doesn't it, Jenna?
Yeah, Jenna's going to be on the kitchen staff in my post-apocalyptic world.
That's because we all know I'm the better cook.
Yeah, right, probably.
She's not wrong.
Bit of time, leaf, some, boiled down bone soup. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
bone soup.
Yeah. So anyway, so Joel's followed the tracks of the drug horse back to where the compound is, and he does the Joel thing, kind of goes in and starts looking around for Ellie. But at that same time, Ellie herself has managed to piss off the preacher teacher to the point where the preacher teachers decided just to hack
Kill
her
her.
up now for food rather than put up with her anymore. So they've drug her out of her cage.
Ellie has
And-
that effect on people.
Yeah. So they've got her on the butcher's block, and they've got the hatchet there, and she's like, no, you don't want to eat me. I'm infected. And the preacher's like, bullshit. And she goes, no, pull up my sleeve. Look at my arm. And so he pulls it up and looks at her arm, and he's pissed because of the whole stoppage thing. So he slams the hatchet down right next to her shoulder there as he's pulling her sleeve up to look at the cordyceps infection.
Because she's bit him.
Right. Because she had bit him in the struggle.
Ooh.
And,
Yep.
and she's like, now you're infected. And he's like, bullshit, and he slams the axe down, he pulls her arm up, and then he sees the infection. And he's like, well, he goes, I think you're full of shit anyway. And well, with that, her other arm, she reaches over, grabs the axe, and the guy standing on the other side of it, she just embeds it right into his neck. So that,
Who is the voice actor of the original Joel in the game that they used in this
I didn't
scene
know that.
for this episode? Yeah.
Right. So that took him out. And so then she manages to get off the table and get away from the preacher teacher, runs further into the building, which is there's nobody in there now. It's kind of like a community hall area, essentially. And he goes looking for her, and they have this kind of big battle. The place gets set on fire, and finally she manages to get the drop on him with the axe and knocks him to the ground. And then she just starts going to town with that axe, just for seemed like a minute or 2 minutes. She's just driving that axe repeatedly into his face and skull. You don't really see that. You're kind of like looking up at her from where the preacher's position would be on the floor, but you just see her like this coming down with the axe repeatedly and the blood splattering up on her. And then so there she is doing her thing as the building burns. So she,
Which can I say,
go
bad
ahead.
for this community in a way, because that's where all of their food was. They had
yeah.
no idea they were eating other people, and now they've burned it down where all these old people, women and children, and other because I think Joel has literally killed all the men at this point who are out there looking for him. So there is nobody left but the old and the very young and the women who are taking care of them
Right.
in winter.
Well, let this be a lesson to all of you nascent cult leaders.
Right.
Up with the video game protagonist.
Right.
Nah.
Right. So, that's pretty much how that episode ends, with him and Ellie reuniting, and then they head back north to the community where Joel's brother is, and that's
No, they had to Salt Lake City, where the medical community is that
I'm
they
sorry.
knew the fireflies were going to
right.
be at.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you
Joel
also
wanted to offer her the chance. He's like, we don't have to go through this. We can go back to Jackson. And she's like, no, we've made this far, this many sacrifices. We need to see it done.
Right. And that's when the whole hospital disaster takes place. So,
which is the end of the first game.
yeah,
Mhm.
and the first season.
Mm-hmm.
And they're already thinking about season 2 being multiple seasons. I mean, sorry, the second game being multiple seasons.
Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's pretty damn good show. I'm liking it. So I'm looking forward to season 2. Hopefully it won't be more than a year before we get season 2 to come out.
2025 is what it sounds like it's going to be.
What? No.
Yes. No, sorry.
That's outrageous.
No.
What do you think of the creature design, Bill?
I like it. I think it's pretty good. It's kind of weird. I think it kind of resembles the way cordyceps works in the ant world, right? Where it kind of takes over their brain and then just kind of bursts out and shoots spores out. So Yeah, I think they did a great job with the effects. I think that scene with all of the infected pouring out of that hole a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was truly incredible. And I watched, there was kind of a behind the scenes thing on that where they showed how they filmed a lot of that, and it was really impressive. So
Yeah, I watched a bit of a behind the scenes thing on like what they went through to actually make these infected, and it's really cool. Or the clickers.
right.
Yeah.
And the sound, yeah, the there's a woman that I guess did the sound effects for the original for the game. And so they got her back to do the sound effects for the female clickers. And then they found a guy that was able to do a really good job and use his sounds for the male clickers. So it's pretty interesting.
They worked really closely with the makers and writers of the game. And I think that is why this show is such a success. Whereas other movie or TV adaptations of video games fall flat.
Yeah.
Is because everyone's always got their own kind of idea of how things should go. Whereas your moviegoer wants to see that video game they played, but in real life.
Yeah.
But the other thing that there was for me anyway, there was a believability in a fungal infection taking over.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the science was, I don't know if it was good, but it's close.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's closer than a lot of other things. Like when they actually bother to come up with an explanation, it's
it was a good explanation, I think.
Like I really like that.
Had a sinus infection, you know.
Yeah, I really liked the scene at the beginning of the third episode. I think it was the PRC where they went to find the scientist lady.
Yeah, it was a great episode, I think.
And they like when they explained the situation to her, she's just like, I have spent my life studying this, so you should listen to what I have to say. We're all fucked.
Right.
Yeah.
Nuke us now.
Yeah, she's bomb the city. I'm going home.
And so like it's one of the show poses some interesting questions. Like is it right for them to sacrifice Ellie if they're gonna save the whole of the human race? Was it right for would it have been right for like someone to just nuke a city off the map if it had saved the rest of the planet from this?
Yeah.
Which is what they started doing in Texas when that's what we saw in the first episode, that there came a point where they just started bombing and shooting everyone to try and contain it.
Yeah.
As Texans do.
The Texan,
That's the first idea they suggested. In Texas.
and there was a lot of criticism from some tourists who said, well, there wasn't enough infected. But in a way, I felt like after 20 years, a lot of people are going to know how to get away from the infected or avoid the infected, except for fuck-ups like KC. So, you're not going to run in this world, you're not going to run into a lot of infected unless you're dumb.
Right. Makes sense.
Well, if you're just outside anywhere, it looks like that you've got like if you like infected can summon other infected. So like it's just
I don't know if that was
But I wonder how long if the cordyceps infects a human being, how long can it keep that human being alive before it has to, explode out its spores or it dies? Right?
They answered that somewhere in there. It was a big wide range. It was like days to 20 years or something.
Yeah.
That person can stay alive.
It depended on if they had a source of water, I think, and and the climate.
Huh.
And then you have to ask the question, okay, are there infected mountain lions running around because it runs out of people and it's out in the wilderness and a giant mountain lion jumps on it and eats it and gets infected? Are there infected horses, dogs, that type of thing? And I don't know if that was in the game, or is it only in people, just like only ants are currently infected with cordyceps?
I think it's only people because the scientist was like these sorts of things have to evolve kind of specifically to infect a host.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have to go through a whole other evolution if it wanted to get at the dogs.
What is the body temperature of other warm-blooded animals? Is it always 98.6?
No, it's
No.
higher.
No.
Definitely higher.
Dogs is higher for sure.
Well, so that would be
Bill's just like, I'm so warm. But I actually saw a YouTube video on this, and that it's actually kind of impossible for this to happen because the two organisms kind of have to evolve together almost. So the ants this has happened to, the fungus, the cordyceps that can infect them is actually really, really, really specifically evolved to exist within them because the other ants can detect when something's wrong. So the cordyceps has had to adjust itself to be less and less observable by other ants so that it can actually maintain an infection. So it's very hyper evolved for a specific species of ant. So that
I say never say
what?
Never say never.
I'm not going to say
I don't.
never, but it would have. It's just not going to pop up overnight.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, but they have we have taxoplum, whatever that is from cats.
Toxoplasmosis.
Yeah. I mean,
Which actually leads to reckless behavior in humans.
Right.
Like there was this one person did a whole study, and a majority of motorcycle accidents that were people like they did a study, and I guess a lot of this.
What?
You broke up a little, Jenna.
Yeah, you broke up there at the end. They did a study in what?
A lot of people who've been in motorcycle accidents have toxoplasmosis because it seems to lead to reckless behavior in humans when you have it.
Oh.
Like it won't necessarily kill you, but
Right.
it's crazy shit.
Right.
But if you do stupid shit, you're going to kill yourself.
Yeah, so it's chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, and I think to Seth, what you were saying about the cordyceps having to evolve, right? It's more or less survival by the cordyceps that is best able to keep itself hidden from winning an ant from other ants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the strains that didn't do that good a job died out because the other ants found them. And then the cordyceps that does survive, it's not really getting in there and taking over the brain functions of the ant, right? But it's giving the ant chemicals to make it want to seek out light or be more isolated from the rest.
Yeah.
No, it's making the ant want to go into the middle of the ant colony so it can explode and spread. But the ants can sense or smell it, and they will try to take that ant and remove it from the colony in time before the spores explode.
I don't think I don't think the spores exploding like that are like in the middle of the ant colony or what it's after, because usually it's like directing an ant up into some
part of a tree.
There are a bunch of different species that do this.
Yeah,
of course, but like from one of them that I was reading of, it just directs them up a blade of grass or something to the top where a bird can see it. Then the bird eats the ant. And then the bird poops out the cordyceps, and another ant comes along and gets infected, and that's kind of the life cycle.
Yeah.
Because the ones that I've seen before I ever saw the series, this was years ago that I watched this. It was some type of Planet Earth thing. They were talking about ants that they're infected and they try and go into the colony.
Yeah, there are probably several different varieties out there that work in different ways.
Moral of the story is don't eat poop.
But no matter what, like ants are pheromone based, or have pheromone-based communications, and the cordyceps throws those off. And so the ants can then tell that something's wrong with Bob over there. And
Bob the ant.
well, ants don't really have a whole acceptance of weird members of their community, so they just get murdered. And that's
Wouldn't it be more likely to be Aunt Bobby?
God. All
As
right.
a fun question to everyone, what, like in Last of Us, what do? Do you just make it work in Fedra, or do you align with the rebels? Go.
All right, Seth.
I probably go with the rebels. I'm way more likely to get myself killed by the Fedra.
Right.
Like, I will say something, I will do something, and they're just like, nah, you're gonna go work out in the infected zones today. Bye, don't come back. So, like, I have a feeling that I would fit in, and my skill set might be a lot better with the rebels.
I'm not sure I understood what the rebels were rebelling against.
The
Fedra.
Fedra.
Well,
Yeah,
gotcha,
like-
but, I mean,
Yeah.
Because
What's
in
that?
certain locations, Fedra was bad. It
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
good.
Is there a
So are the
location where
rebels.
Fedra's actually good in the show? Because they just seem
I don't think.
it just seemed like my impression of Fedra was it was just the federal government that was trying to retain the last vestiges of its power.
right, they were raising kids. They seem to be doing an okay.
In Boston, you weren't really sure. I mean, but it's like a definitely from line to the line of the haves and has-nots. And if you join Fedra, you get more resources versus those humans who are left.
Mm-hmm. All right, Linda. Fedra or the rebels?
I'm with Seth. Rebel it.
I mean,
Right,
there's also the third option of being like,
I'm on the side of Darth Vader on this one. I'm
The
afraid.
rebels?
Nah.
Oh, the Fedra. Okay. What
I
were
mean,
you saying, Seth?
from what I saw in the movie, I didn't play the game, so
Yeah.
I get that the military, they killed his daughter, but that's what happens in a disaster. I mean,
Right.
That's the way it goes.
yeah, but then nobody apologized. So they just kept on doing it.
well, and people get mad. Well, I was in Washington State as a kid, like when Mount St. Helens blew, right?
Mhm.
And I had a professor that showed us footage. Actually, it was an hour of footage, but it was a half an hour of people going, "I'm going up on this mountain, and the government has no right to tell me not to go up here."
Right.
And the next half an hour was people going, "Where's the government after it blew?"
Right.
No one came to save us.
Right. Right.
So I don't know. I mean,
Everybody wants to be free until they're in a fucked up
well, so there's sometimes there's anger at things. No, I mean, the government didn't go in and kill everybody that was on the mountain. Which is a little different, I guess. But I don't think it was demonstrated to me the rationale for the hatred.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, there's been a disaster.
Yeah. All right.
I didn't quite understand. I don't see how that helped. Actually, I'm not really on the side of the rebels yet.
Right.
KC, I can understand because Fedra was openly horrific in terms of raping and.
Well, there's probably some stuff I missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But Boston, it wasn't as clear.
Yeah. Jenna, rebels or Fedra?
It's gonna depend on where I'm at, man.
Yeah.
Boston, I probably would have made it work because like Charles said, I didn't see enough to make it awful.
Yeah.
Seth said, though, there's a third option where you just try and go do your own thing somewhere in the middle of nowhere, but then it's like, where?
Yeah.
So,
and then you have to worry about, roving gangs of marauders coming into your camp, and it's just you trying to defend off, a group. And if you've got the skills like, what's his name, the guy couple that was built their compound, right? If you've got that kind of skills, then maybe you might have a chance. But I think for me, I'm kind of in the same line as Jenna. I think there's areas where there may be Fedra may be good, and there's areas where it may be bad and the rebels may be better. But, if we look at what happened where the rebels took over and killed all the Fedra guys in that one place, the woman who ran the rebels was like a whack job herself.
Right. Yeah.
She had a vendetta out, and she wanted to kill everybody that was a sympathizer, regardless of what their circumstances might have been, a sympathizer with Fedra. So, you got to be careful in those situations and look, each one's going to be unique, and you're going to have to look and say, well, whichever way we go, nothing's going to be perfect.
Well, wasn't it? Oh, I'm gonna ruin something maybe because I'm trying to think if I finished the book, but it's one of those like the zombie apocalypse books.
Uh-huh.
They lure civilians into cities.
Oh, World War Z.
Yeah, World War Z. So that
I
the
love that
zombies
show.
will come after the civilians, and then they blow them all up.
Oh,
That's another one of those we made hard choices. The guy who came up with that plan was just fully insane from the
he was like a general in Africa or something that came up with the plan for saving civilization. Yeah.
He must have worked for the Wagner Group.
What?
He must have worked for the Wagner Group.
Nah.
He was actually a humanitarian. I want to say he was a humanitarian scientist who, they were coming to him, as a whole, please help us contain this. And he was just like this genius or something. And he was like, here's what you got to do. You have to establish safe zones that are rigorously tested and
protected,
guarded and whatnot, and you just have to let the big cities go.
Mm-hmm.
You don't help them, you retreat, you find a safe space, and you hole up until you can start taking territory back. And of course that meant the zombies went to eat all the people in the cities while the governments secured their strong locations.
Right.
And it worked out in World War Z.
Kind of.
No.
So anyway, there was the problem with joining the Empire there in the other world too. You don't know.
Linda, we got to finish work on the sub basement.
World War Z is one of my favorites.
Our audience, would you join Fedra or would you join the
Fireflies?
Rebels?
The Fireflies, right?
Fireflies. Here we go. I almost said lightning bug. The Fireflies. Same thing.
They both start with F, so be careful. Fireflies or Fedra. Know your acronyms.
All right. Then.
Or are you going to be a hermit and live a simple life with a very pleasant man?
At some point, you're gonna need medicine.
And they get medicine. They have friends.
Right.
Yeah.
So
what if they never found it?
That would have been bad.
That's probably on you for not doing it. Bill would have died on his own without Bruce making him social. So
right.
So our potpourri has turned into a single episode of
potpourri in the next one. Let's just get going.
All right, folks. Well, enjoy. Let us know in the comment section what you think, Fedra or Fireflies, where you'd go. And we will catch you on the next episode. Going to be kind of a potpourri episode, talking about some different developments in the world of technology. And we might even touch a little bit on what's going on with Shadow and Bone, Season 2, which has just started recently. So thanks for tuning in. We will catch you all next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, hold on.
I'm dance.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.